ETF Inspector. It's Thursday, May 29th. It's dividend X date if you have any of the YieldMax funds that we talk about. And this is the video for YieldMax Funds ULTY, the Ultra Option Income Strategy Fund, and LFGY, the Crypto Industry and Tech Portfolio Option Income ETF, both being from YieldMax. Neat little milestone. Today marks 1 month since I posted the first video. You guys have me up to 485 subscribers. Appreciate that very much. We're almost to the halfway point of the 1,000 subscriber goal. And just a reminder, if you're on X or Twitter, I'm on there too, at ETF Inspector1, and I will usually let you know when YieldMax posts about their distributions, as well as when new videos are uploaded and ready to go. All right, so today we're looking at ULTY and LFGY. Big picture, there was a lot of red. You saw the thumbnail. All right. Notable ones to mention: AI went up over 20%, 20.76. And then for the most part, not a lot of other great news as far as green. Two biggest losers for ULTY were similar: 9.17% loss for IonQ and 9.13% loss for CoreWeave. Hopefully I'll remember to get back to this part when we switch over to talking about LFGY. There were a lot of trades. Usually ULTY is the leader in trades, but it wasn't too bad for ULTY, as you can see. But LFGY, I think it came out to be like 70-something lines to put in. Yeah, so lots of trades to input in my spreadsheet. I know I should probably use Google Sheets and then set things up automatically, but I am old and I like Excel. So let's take a look at how things did. We'll start with the trades, since that influences the holdings and the the percentage in or out of the money for our options. I think I'm a little bit too zoomed in. All right, so today for ULTY, for ASTS, they closed out their May 30th $26 calls and the puts associated with them, and sold for next Friday $25 calls. So they dropped $1 on the sold calls, and they dropped or they actually came up $1.50 on the purchased ones, or the insurance. Overall, making $187,000, right? Because they were buying the close for 6 cents. That's a huge win. And then selling next week's for 68 cents. That is per share. There's 100 shares per contract, and they're working with 4,750 contracts. Similarly with NVIDIA, they closed out the 144s for this week. Going forward, I'll just talk about the sold calls. We're not that concerned about the insurance policies. Closed out this week's 144s and sold next week's 144s. Bought the close for 21 cents, sold to open for $1.57. Overall netting an $84,500 profit. Rigetti, same thing. Closing out the 3,000 contracts at 15 for tomorrow, paying 5 cents to close them, selling 1450s next week for 42 cents, and $87,000 profit. RH, buy to close this week's 195s, and sold to open 197.50s next week. Big win, right? Paid 55 cents to close them, got $5 per share to open, and actually bumped up the call strike to by $2.50. So almost $39,000 win, or profit, whatever you want to call it. And Snowflake closed out their $210 strikes for this Friday and opened 210s for next Friday. Paid $2.11 to close them, sold the new ones for paid 11 cents, not $2.11, and sold the new ones for $2.05, making over $87,000. So that totals up for $484,750 profit in trading today. Those all were wins, so good week trading. This basically cancels out Tuesday's loss, so we're still having a positive trading by over $500,000. Next, we'll move on to the holdings. All right, so the holdings on this side, everything, this download comes out in the mornings, so everything on basically to our left of the color is not updated, right? That's as of the market open, so we will get how the market closed tomorrow. I then add in just the closing stock prices, and that changes. That's these little colors here. Red being in the money, meaning it's going to cost us to close out because now it has intrinsic value. Yellow being out of the money but within 5%, and green being more than 5% out of the money. I won't talk about any that have a block of yellow next to them because those are the ones we just talked about in the trades that got closed out and moved to next week. So we'll get the updated information tomorrow on those. Obviously, I could sit here and do all the work and fill them in, but it's a whole lot easier to download their holdings download and just copy and paste the whole column all at once rather than piecing things in. So the big winner, C3.ai, stock ticker AI, went up 20.76%. So we were sitting there 12% out of the money yesterday thinking we were golden, and then ended up in the money by 8%. 27.80 was the closing price. That was a gain of $1.6 million in market value, but it's going to cost us. So these will end up being $2 to $3 to close tomorrow if the stock were to stay the same. So it won't come out to be the 1.6. So overall, it'll be a win. We'll get a little more time decay. Maybe we'll get a little pullback, and we'll close those out. Not for a win, but it's okay. AST Space Mobile, we talked about it. Those already got traded to next week, so we're not concerned with how these options are looking. The stock dropped 4.8% to $23.57. It was a little over $500,000 loss. Coinbase Global lost 2.14% to $248.84, bringing their calls 8.5% out of the money. These are already pushed out till next week, so we won't see anything done with them. CoreWeave, one of the bigger losers today, lost over $1.2 million in value. Again, you didn't see any sales of stocks themselves, so these losses are just they're unrealized, right? They're not locked in. Stock goes back up tomorrow, they get washed out. So they have 110s and 112s sold out till tomorrow. They are still 4.2 and 6% out of the money, looking like we should win those trades. And realistically, this 9% loss today helped us because these would have been pretty far in the money and costing us a lot to close them out. So that, yeah, as you can see, when the day started, this was going to cost $9.55 to close out per share. Now, if it ends the way it's at right now tomorrow, they'd be free. They'd be a penny. Dell Technologies lost 0.1%, $113.63. A small loss, almost 10,000. Calls are 5.6% out of the money. First Solar lost 0.3% to $155.95. Those calls are 9% out of the money. They're already pushed till next week, so we won't see anything happen with them. $22,000 loss in value. Hims and Hers also pushed out to next week, so but they're getting pretty far out of the money with these calls. 14%, 1.76% loss to $52.40. Robinhood lost 1.83% to $63.95, a loss of $258,000 in value, and the calls to close tomorrow are now 4.7% out of the money. IonQ lost, the biggest loser of the day, 9.17%, almost $1.5 million value lost. 43.20 was the stock closing price, and the calls are now 8.8% out of the money. Mara Holdings, or Mara, lost 1.68%, or 156,000. 1461 was the closing price, and 9.5% out of the money. These calls are already sold out till next week, so we won't be talking about them tomorrow. Marvell, $67 calls to get closed tomorrow. The stock price ended at 63.73. Those are 5.1% out of the money. It was a 1.3% loss and a $100,000 loss of value. MicroStrategy, 1.75% gain to 370.63. So this is nice. These are already out till next week. We're nearly 10% out of the money on these, so we can afford plenty of days like this where we increase in value without hurting on the options. I think I said it, $240,000 gain. NVIDIA, did I say they were one of the better winners? 3.25% gain to 139.19, $569,000 gain, and these options are already traded out till next week. That just happened today. Oklo lost 4.18%. This is another one that helped us, right? These were in the money when the day started, so losing 4.18% brought them to 3.9% out of the money. That's going to change us from having to pay a few dollars per share to close them out to pennies tomorrow if it ends this way. 52.93 was the closing price, $692,000 loss. Palantir lost 1.16% to 122.32. Down here, these have already been traded out to next week, but that brought this Friday's 126 and 130, 3 and 6% out of the money, $190,000 loss. Reddit made 3.41%, an even $360,000 gain. 109.03 was the closing price, and that one hurt a little because these were just out of the money, 1 or 2%, and now they're 1 to 2% in the money. So we're going to have to pay to close these out tomorrow if the stock doesn't pull back some. Rigetti Computing lost 7.13% to 13.15. They already had options sold out till next week, and this one here got traded today and pushed out to next week. $656,000 loss. RH up 0.16%, just under $6,000 gained, $184.14. These were traded as well, so we can ignore that. SMCI lost 1.93% to 41.15, $109,000 loss. These are already out till next week on the 45s, so they're 9.3% out of the money. Snowflake got traded today, so we're not worried about these options. They lost 1% to 202.31, a $94,000 loss. TNA, our triple leveraged small cap bull, up 0.85% to 29.55. Still slightly out of the money. 1.52% for this week's 30. We need to stay under 30, and they've already got an option for next week at 30.50. Almost evenly split, 1,850 contracts and 1,800 contracts. The other triple leverage fund, TQQQ, up about 0.5% to $70.37, $83,000 gain. All these are still yet to be closed out, so they got to close these tomorrow. They're 2 and 3% out of the money, so we need this to stay under 72. Tesla went up 0.43% to $358.43. It was a $70,000 gain, and the calls at 350 are just under 1% in the money. So as you can see, they're pretty pricey to close out, but with time decay, right, we're only $3.43 in the money. So as tomorrow ticks on, unless this goes up more, that $8 will at least drop down in half or so. Upstart lost 0.68% to $46.69, a $70,000 loss. Options at 47.50 and 48.50 are 1.7 and 3.8% out of the money. Those will be getting closed and rolled tomorrow. Same thing with Vertiv and Vistra Corp. Everything's going to get rolled tomorrow. Vertiv down 0.69% to 108.47. That's got the 108s are still 0.43% in the money, and the 110s are 1.4% out of the money. $54,000 loss. And Vistra Corp lost 1.62% to 159.73. $184,000 loss, and the options are 1.7 and 3.3% out of the money. Totals, the fund is just under $340 million. So it is growing quick, but overall on the day, value-wise, right? These are unrealized losses. $3.2 million of unrealized losses. ULTY closed at 613. That's not terrible, especially since from yesterday we had to start 9.5 cents lower than that because it was dividend X date, so that comes out of the stock price. And there were 600,000 shares added to the outstanding shares, bringing it up to 55,350,000. All right, I think that's everything for ULTY. So next, we've got LFGY. And I didn't forget. I usually do. The biggest winner for LFGY is actually one that's also held in ULTY, so it's further up on our thing. 3.25% gain, that's the biggest winner. And as far as LFGY's biggest loser, as you can see, similarly, whole lot of red. Biggest loser was GameStop, 5.25% loss. All right, so we'll get into LFGY now. Go through these a little bit different. So they sold a lot of shares. They didn't, as far as I could tell, they didn't sell out of anything. Now, they didn't sell out of anything, but for some reason they just wanted to sell a lot of shares today. So a little bit of everything. I mean, it might literally be some of everything. MicroStrategy, Mara, Riot, Robinhood, Block, CleanSpark, Coinbase, Core Scientific, Galaxy, GameStop, Hut 8 Corp, iBit, Mercado Libre, Nvidia, Opera, PayPal, Tesla, Bitdeer, and U Holdings. So brought in a lot of money today. Obviously, most of these bringing in the 1 to 2 million range, 3+ on MicroStrategy, and we do count this buying and selling of the shares in LFGY towards the daily trading profit since they trade them so often. Whereas over in ULTY, they literally buy them to trade options on them, and then they sell them when they're done with it. Every once in a while, if they get too heavily weighted in one, they'll sell a portion of it just to buy a different stock. But so as far as Bitdeer, so I highlighted the ones in yellow that make sense to talk a little bit extra about. Bitdeer went ahead and closed out their calls that are sold for this week and pushed till next week. So as you can see, buy to close 10 cents, 9 cents, 2 cents. Those are wins, and they're selling next week for 32 and 40 cents. Overall, $96,000 profit. CleanSpark, again, buying to close for 5 cents, 2 cents. Those are wins. Selling to open for 21. So there's really not a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up seeing them get out of this soon. I mean, to sell something out for a week and a day and only getting 21 cents, not a lot. But they made $61,000 on the trade. For some reason, they closed one call of coin for 8 cents, $8. Core Scientific, they went ahead and pushed out till next week, closed this Friday's 1150s and 12s, and opened 1150s for next week, closing for 3 cents, 3 cents, 2 cents, opening for 19. So again, it's a lot of money to risk to bring in 19 cents premium. I wouldn't be surprised if we see them get out of this stock, but what do I know? $87,000 win. Galaxy, here's another one. They just closed 2 contracts when they have multiple. GameStop, they rolled till next week, closing their 3650s and opening 31s. So buy to close for 6 cents, sell to open for 89 cents. Overall profit of $136,000. Robinhood bought the close for this Friday. 68s, 71s, and just sold 69s for next week. Closing for 11.5 and 3 cents. Opening for 88 and 89. So doing good. $74,000 gain. Hut 8 Corp. Closing out their 1850s for this week. Selling 1650s for next week. Paying 4 cents and 10 cents to close out. And receiving 54 cents on the new open trade. $151,000 gain. Mara, they made over $200,000. Roll into next week. Buying to close for 4 and 13 cents at 16.50 and opening for 15.50. Making sure I don't have that wrong. Yep. 15.50 and 16.50. Getting 47 cents on the sale. MBTX, we don't own any shares of these. They just trade options, and for some reason they closed one out. One contract. MSTR gain, same thing. Closed one contract. NU, making small moves. Opera, small moves. Closing out 6 contracts. PayPal, they went ahead and closed out and pushed to next week. Paying 16 and 18 cents to close, selling for 80 cents. Overall making 29,000. Riot, same thing. Closing out this week's 950s, selling next week's $9. Buying to close for 3 and 1 cent, selling to open for 13. Another one, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't end up trading these much longer. Selling a week call for 13 cents. But they made 66,000. And finally, Block, or XYZ, closing out for 6 and 7 cents at 65, selling next week's for 64 at 85 cents. $35,000 win. All said and done, in trading today, they brought in $27 million. So let's do a real quick, just for fun. Let's leave out all the shares sold and just look at options traded. It was still an almost $1 million winning day, even if we take out all the shares sold. So it was a beautiful day for LFGY trading. Obviously, that's going to usually equate to a bad day on the holdings, because for us to win on our selling our calls, then we need the stock market to go down or just not go up. So let's see, Bitdeer up a fraction to 1431, $3,000 increase in value. We already talked about it. They rolled these to next week. CleanSpark, they rolled these to next week. Lost 3.62% to 878, $175,000 loss, and they did already have a $10 call sold for next week. Oof, and we forgot to carry that down. They're 13% out of the money, 14 almost. Coinbase lost 2.14% to 248.84. The calls are 13.5% out of the money. They'll be closing them tomorrow for pennies. $315,000 loss. Core Scientific, they already rolled these. Lost 0.83% to 1069, a $49,000 loss. Galaxy Digital, this is one of our new ones, down 3.83%. These were new this week, so anytime they get in one new, they don't sell it for the same week. But these are pushed all the way out to 620. So this might be one that doesn't have weeklies, so that they had to go for a monthly. But they're 27.5% out of the money. I wouldn't be surprised if we see them buying to close them before the 20th and rolling them closer to at the money just to bring in more premium. GameStop lost 5.25%. They were our biggest loser on LFGY. $29.57 was the closing price. $278,000 loss. The 3650s were rolled to next week, and they already have 38s for next week that are 28% out of the money. Again, we might see them close them and bring them closer to the money to collect more premium. Robinhood lost 1.83% to $63.95, $114,000 loss. Options were rolled today. HUD 8 Corp options were rolled today, lost 1% to 1538 or $55,000 loss. IBIT, they don't trade options on it, so they just trade the fund. Ended at $59.99, a 1.32% loss, $152,000. Mara Holdings similarly lost $151,000 on a 1.68% loss, $14.61 closing price. They rolled these calls till next week. And with LFGY, they don't always have the insurance policies the way ULTY does. And what I mean by insurance policies, they don't sell a credit call spread every time. Sometimes they'll just sell the calls. They're not naked because they have the shares. So MBTX closed at 250.04. Their calls for June 20th are just about 4% out of the money. Mercado Libre lost 0.2% to $2,545.49, an $11,000 loss. Calls are 2% out of the money to be closed tomorrow. And look at that, they were still $9 this morning, so that's gonna come down drastically tomorrow. MicroStrategy up 1.75% to 370.63. We had plenty of room to grow. We've got 10.6 and 4.5% out of the money on those calls, a gain of 219,000. NU Holdings lost 1.72 to 11.99. They rolled their 1250s, but they already had 1250s for next week. They're 4.25% out of the money, $78,000 loss. They made $100,000 with Nvidia, going up 3.25% to 139.19. These still need to be closed out tomorrow. The 142s, they're 2% out of the money. Opera lost 0.6% to 18.05, a $29,000 loss. Their calls are sold out to June 20th. They're 10% out of the money. PayPal, these got rolled today, so these don't exist anymore. Lost 0.7% to $70.93, a $24,000 loss. Riot, similar. Man, I'm slipping. They closed out their 950s today, but they already had 950s for next week. Sold obviously a much smaller amount of contracts. They are 16% out of the money after a 2.39% loss today to 818, $114,000 loss. Tesla went up 0.43 cents to 358.43, getting real close here. So they still have to close these 360s out tomorrow. They are 0.44% out of the money. So this is one, this will come down drastically tomorrow so long as the stock doesn't go up anymore, because they're currently $5.60. Well, they were at the start of the day. So by tomorrow, they'll be pennies if the stock doesn't break 360. And finally, Block. They traded these already today to next week. Went up a little over 0.5% to $62.16, $15,000 gain. Overall, that puts us the fund at just under $116 million, with a $1.2 million loss on the day, value-wise of the holdings of the stock. But obviously, we had an enormous day trading. LFGY closed at $38.94, and the outstanding shares was increased by 75,000 to 2.975 million. This will get updated tomorrow, right? Because although we know the changes in market value of the stocks, we don't know all the changes in market values of all the different options until we get the download. So that's why you don't really pay attention to that or the NAV. But okay, that's all I have. So thank you. I hope you're happy with the video. Feel nice and informed with how your money is being used to make money when you invest in ULTY and LFGY. So we got the dad joke of the day. So before I do, thank you to everybody. Thanks for watching. If you stuck around to the end, maybe for some this is the best part. I stopped talking about a bunch of numbers and tell you a joke. So if you haven't already, please subscribe and share with other people that are into ULTY and LFGY. All right, so the dad joke calendar getting a little political today, but that's okay. It's funny. It says they think we should ban pre-shredded cheese. They want to make America great again. That's pretty funny. Okay, hope you did well today. And tomorrow's the last trading day of the week, so good luck closing out options if you have them and rolling them the next week. Or hope everything ends out of the money for you so you can make the maximum profit. See you in tomorrow's video.